Welcome back to Mik'd Up. We were just previewing the conversation that we were about to have about this past weekend. LSU baseball goes into Oxford, gets the sweep, puts themselves right at the top of the SEC West like everybody anticipated. Our next guest, we're excited to have our next guest, reoccurring guest, fan of the show, Big Ben McDonald, number 1 overall pick, also ESPN analyst who called the game on Saturday. And not only did he call the game, before Morgan Wallen canceled his Sunday show, he got to experience the Morgan Wallen experience in Oxford,
He's
which
got
looked
canceled.
Amazing. That's probably why he got canceled. He was too excited.
He also got the experience of the armadillo.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
That was last year.
Ben, I appreciate you coming on the show. How was this weekend? Obviously, the Morgan Wallen concert looked electric. We're going to get to baseball in a minute, but tell me about that.
It was great. You know, you go to a lot of concerts, and I'm not a huge concert guy, but you know, a lot of times you show up at a concert and the artist that you're watching doesn't quite sound as good as you hear him on the radio or whatever, you know. But Morgan Wallen was better than what he sounded on the radio to me. Like, he was really, really good. And I hate to say it, but I went out and partied with him on Saturday night for about 3 hours, and that's the reason why he couldn't make the concert there on Sunday.
It's hard. Those Tennessee guys, they can't really drink with the Louisiana guys. I know that.
They just can't hang. Like, he just couldn't. No, I mean, I don't know. I hate it from people that showed up on Sunday. Like, that's too bad. I don't know what happened, man. But I'll be honest, I'm not buying the I lost my voice thing, because he sounded perfect on Saturday night. So.
Maybe a little too many libations, but
too many honey filters.
Yeah, let's get to the game. Obviously, you called the game. Ole Miss is the reigning national champs. Your battery mate, teammate, Mike Bianco is the head coach there. Obviously, he just won the national championship. LSU is the number 1 team in the country. They go into Oxford. Ole Miss swept LSU last year in Baton Rouge. LSU goes into Oxford. You can't go in there expecting a sweep, but they've been playing well. You expect to win the series. They go out there and they finish with a sweep. What did you see from, I guess, both teams, in particular LSU this weekend, that really set them apart to be able to get the sweep?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you run, Skeens out there on Friday nights, you always got a really good shot. And he gave a 3-run homer to Will Furness, and ball left out over the plate. A good swing by Furness, but wasn't much going on offensively for Ole Miss past that. The story for me was Ty Floyd. And I was kind of hard on Ty Floyd in the open when we did the game. And, if LSU is going to get to Omaha and LSU is going to win a national championship like they're favored to do, it's time for Ty Floyd to step up and get going. I mean, he has flashed it throughout his career at times. He flashed it a little bit this year. The truth is, going into this past weekend start, he had an ERA above 6 in the SEC. Yeah. That's just not going to get it for the stuff that he has. Like, Ty Floyd has really good stuff. So I was kind of hard on him in open, saying this is the most important start of his career, because LSU needs a number 1 and a number 2. You got to have 2 studs to play deep in the postseason play to get to Omaha and have a chance to win it. Well, I'll tell you what, he looked better than I've ever seen him in 3 years at LSU. He has had an elite fastball. We know about the high spin rate. He can get it up in the zone and pitch it belt high. But he threw strike 1. And he also did something he's not been able to do in previous years. He had a consistent off-speed pitch, too. He threw the breaking ball. He threw the changeup. He was able to keep Ole Miss off of his fastball for the most part. So able to create the, hey, I might fish or something in there off speed, and then he used his fastball to do most of his work like he typically does. So big time outing for him. I think he only walked 1, had a lot of strikeouts, worked into the 9th inning, and still blowing 96 in the 9th inning, which was impressive for me. So big time start by him. Ole Miss is, look, they've had a few injuries like everybody's had. I don't think anybody's been beat up more than LSU has, but Hunter Elliott was not the Hunter Elliott that we saw pitch Ole Miss to the College World Series and the national championship, the freshman last year. He comes back this year after going out after his first start of the year. The elbow just, to me, it's not the same. Like, his velo was 86, 87, flashed a couple of 90s, but I didn't like what I saw. I hope I'm wrong, but he looks like he's hurt to me. The changeup was a different arm slide. He was really slowing his arm and his body down. It wasn't good. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he bounces back. I hope Ole Miss makes some type of a run. It's about time last year they got it going and made enough of a run to at least get a postseason berth, But Ole Miss is just off a little bit this year. Not to say that the schedule favors them these last 4 games. I looked it up. Ole Miss plays Georgia, Missouri, Auburn, and Alabama. I mean, 4 teams that can beat you, but not your top-tier teams in the SEC. So I wouldn't be shocked if Ole Miss, did win those Final 4 series, made a little bit of noise, but they'd have work to do in the SEC tournament as well.
So you mentioned obviously Ty Floyd. You mentioned obviously Christian Little threw into the 6. He went 5 1/3. Only walked one guy, which I think that's encouraging. If there was some weak points, if there were some question marks with LSU this year, it has been who's going to step up on the second and third stars and how is the bullpen going to perform. Now, obviously, people are talking about the depth of the bullpen. I would argue that the depth has been there. You're just relying on some guys that you didn't really expect to rely on at this point in the season. Did the bullpen or the pitching staff, did they do anything to kind of quiet those concerns for you, or is it still to be TBD as the season goes on?
Well, I mean, look, you get Coleman back. That's a big help from the left side, as good as he was a couple years ago. Ackenhausen comes back, and then hopefully he can be as sharp as he was early in the year before he went down. But those are two left-handed arms. So what are you going to do for your right-handed arms in that bullpen down there? And that's a concern for me. I mean, LSU, I felt like was an odds-on favorite, a no-doubter to get to Omaha. That road's going to be a lot bumpier now because of the bullpen. I mean, let's look at it let's be honest about this. So we use one reliever on Friday.
Right. We
use one reliever on Saturday. So your bullpen's as rested as you could possibly pray for going into a Sunday game. Who closes the game for you on Sunday? A kid who did not get one rep in fall ball.
Yeah.
Didn't get on the bump, not even in a squad game. A kid didn't throw one bullpen in fall ball because he wasn't going to be needed. A kid that right before the season started, when he had to get inter squads, did not throw one bullpen, did not get one rep. Okay?
Right.
So now all of a sudden you get to the season and you've lost 3 or 4 guys because Shores is gone. He's done for the year.
Yep.
Edwards is done for the year.
Yep.
So that's your top 2 bullpen arms are done. So all of a sudden now we're using a kid that had 0 reps and you had 0 thought of ever using him on the bump this year.
Yep.
And yet he's closing out a game for you on Sunday in the SEC when you've only used 2 relievers. So that right there, if anybody's paying attention, that screams one thing. The bullpen's not in great shape.
Right.
Okay. I heard you guys talk about something that Thatcher Hurd. Thatcher Hurd's a guy for me that, listen, #1 rated high school arm coming out of the state of California. Unbelievable at UCLA last year. It's in the tank for him.
Yeah.
He needs to figure it out. LSU needs for him to figure it out. You need a big arm sitting at the back end to come in and face a big right-hander in the 8th and the 9th inning in the SEC. In the 8th and 9th inning of a super regional, you need a big right-handed arm back there. If somebody's going to have to step up. It was good to see Bryce Collins not this past weekend, but the weekend before, he got some opportunities. And he looked really good. So if there is a concern for me, it is certainly the bullpen. It's good to get those arms back. LSU needs all the arms they can get right now because of what's happened. But that is the concern. I don't know how bad Tommy White is. Maybe y'all have information on that. It didn't look bad to me, but of course that's a concern. Sounds like, Brady Neal's going to be out another 2 or 3 weeks is what it sounds like. Paxton Kling is going to be out another couple of weeks is what it sounds like. So it's a beat-up LSU team right now. But the good news is they continue to win.
Ben, we had you on pretty early in the season. You voiced your concerns about where the lineup was and things that you had seen up until that point. To date now, what Jay has been able to get out of the offensive group, is it, in your mind, as expected, as advertised, or has it surpassed what you thought they would be able to kind of accomplish and be able to do at this point in the year?
Well, I mean, it's the #1 offense in the country runs per game going into the weekend. I think it's still there. So I'm not going to say that's a huge surprise, but I don't think anybody thought LSU would be #1. But all the 300 D1 schools are out there. So that's really a good thing. It continues to be a team that strikes out a lot, but it continues to be a team that walks a lot. And so the on-base percentage is still high for LSU. There's some guys I think that, I think it's in the tank for Joe Bear, right? Joe Bear had 18 long ones last year.
Right.
I want to see him. Like I'm ready for Joe Bear to start hitting the long ball. He had a pretty good weekend, but I think it's in the tank for him to really get going. Another kid that had a great year, Josh Pearson last year. He had some big moments you guys remember from the left side in SEC play. I think he hit 8 homers last year. I think it's in the tank for him to get going. I don't think you could ask anything more out of Tommy White, Dylan Cruz, Jerry Jones freshman year. It's up and down. He's still pretty up at 342 and hitting the homers that he's doing. Gavin Dugas is a big part of it. So, yeah, I like the offense. I just think towards the bottom, I'd like to see a couple other guys really kind of get going going in more ways than what they're doing right now. But look, there's no complaints from me for the offense. I mean, the offense is as good as I think we could have hoped for, averaging the runs that they're averaging right now. So no complaints there. Still a little bit concerned about the defense. We talked about the defense last time, too. And at the time, They were really fielding it well, right? One of the tops in the nation, tops in the SEC. It feels like that defense is back down just a little bit the last couple weeks. So the defense needs to keep its head above water, continue to make the routine plays. That's going to be a big part of LSU making a deep run as well.
6 weeks through SEC play right now. There's 4 weekends left, pretty much a month left. You're looking at the team with the best road winning percentage in the league right now. What does that tell you about this group of players?
Well, I mean, look, all you got to say is this is how tough the league is, right? Going into play this weekend, LSU's ranked number 1 in the country, but got the 5th best record in the SEC when it comes to SEC play.
Yep.
Now, I'll say that again. 5th best record in SEC play, but ranked number 1 in the entire country.
Consensus one in the country, too.
Yeah, exactly. So that tells you all you need to know about how tough the SEC is. So it's a gritty bunch that's going through some adversity this year with the injuries. There's no doubt about that. And it's the only team in the SEC now after this weekend that has not lost an SEC series. You know, with Arkansas getting swept and Vanderbilt getting swept, LSU is the only team in this bunch that has not lost an SEC series yet. So that tells you all you need to know about LSU. And look, you guys know as well as anybody in this league can jump on you and beat you, but LSU's gotten the hardest part of their schedule out of the way. You know, what they have left, you got Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Georgia. Yeah. You know, teams that can beat you, but certainly not top tier teams within the SEC. So I like where LSU is right now. I think they're set up to win, the rest of their series, and hopefully they'll do better than that. So a lot to look forward to. Hopefully some guys will step up on the mound in the bullpen a little bit more. Maybe some guys get hotter at the bottom part of that lineup for LSU. But I like what I'm seeing. But I look at the RPI today like you did, guys, and we got a chance in the SEC to do something that's never been done in any conference, and that's put 5 teams to be national seeds, 5 out of 8. The most we've ever had is 4, and I think the SEC's done that 4 times. But as of today, South Carolina's 1 in the RPI, LSU's 3, Arkansas's 5, Vandy's 7, Florida's 9, and Kentucky is number 2 with the number 1 strength of schedule. So that's 6 teams in the SEC in the top 9 in the RPI right now. So there's a good chance for a strong finish that we could have 5 SEC schools be national seeds, which has never happened.
I'm glad let's stay with the SEC because I'm glad you said that, right? Because last time we had you on, we talked about how deep the SEC was and how much of a high level of baseball that is played in the SEC, right? You look at last weekend, LSU goes to South Carolina. This was a couple weekends ago. Obviously, they didn't finish the series. They split 1-1. South Carolina sweeps Florida, right? Florida was playing well. South Carolina, I don't think people really didn't know if they were going to be real, if they were real or not. They sweep Florida. I think they've proven to everybody that they are the real deal. Tennessee was kind of reeling. They go on the road. They stay at home, and they sweep Vandy. Georgia sweeps Arkansas. Alabama sweeps Missouri. A&M struggled, but now they're back to 500. They take 2 out of 3 from Kentucky. What have you seen within the SEC, and what has been something that has surprised you to this point in the season because we just passed the halfway point?
Well, I mean, that just goes to show you 5 sweeps in one weekend, right, which hardly ever happens. So you better bring your A game every weekend. If you don't, you're going to get your butt kicked in. That's just how the depth is in the SEC. I think the 2 biggest surprises for me, South Carolina's got to be at the top. And now it was a preseason ranked team. South Carolina was ranked 19th when the season began, but I don't think anybody thought that they'd be second in the SEC in runs per game and number 1 in pitching. It's a real team. 92 home runs now. I wrote this down in 40 games. Think about this. South Carolina hit 58 home runs last year in 55 games. They've got 92 right now in 40 games. So they're going to more than double their home run output. Now, that's a different show for a different time. The balls are amped. Yep. Nobody will ever convince me otherwise. No, you'll never convince me. I know what I see with my eyes. And when the 5'8" guys, and nothing against the 5'8" guys, but when the 5'8" guys start going oppo for home runs again, something's wrong with the balls.
Ben, we've said the same. Ben, we said the same thing because we've seen way too many balls hit to center. And boys are just literally not even moving out of the box as if they knew it already. I've never seen that so prevalent in college baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting exit velos and distances. I mean, listen, Jack Caglione is a monster. I'm not going to say the dude's lead the nation in home runs. The jackhammer, right? I love him. But jackhammer's not stronger than Aaron Judge, and he's not stronger than Carlos Stanton. He's just not.
Right.
But his exit velos are better than theirs right now. So, I mean, that tells you, I mean, look, he hit a ball the other day. It was like 121 off the bat. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, Judge and Stanton don't even do that. So something's wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the boys, the kids. I mean, he's having a wonderful year. I'm just saying the balls are different. We started to see it in postseason play last year. We set a record for homers in postseason play last year. That same ball's in play this year. Having said that, South Carolina's as real as they can be. I think they can do it on both sides of the ball. The defense is solid. The other big surprise had to be Tennessee going into this weekend, right? A team that was preseason number 2 and had really faltered. And, I mean, you look at Tennessee, they had lost 4 of their 5 SEC series going into this weekend. So that was a team I was looking at going, man, I knew they were going to be a little bit short hitting-wise, just a little bit younger, but still I thought they'd be really good. And with that pitching staff they had coming back, which was their entire weekend rotation from last year, I'm going, Tennessee's a team to beat, right? I mean, they're one of the ones to beat out there. I don't know what's amiss over there, but listen, we may look back and say, well, this was the weekend. I mean, they swept a very good Vanderbilt team this weekend, so is this the weekend that really gets Tennessee going? We shall see. Because right now, I was concerned going into the weekend going, is Tennessee not even going to make the SEC tournament?
Yeah.
I mean, could they not even get in the SEC tournament? Or maybe they sneak in the tournament, have work to do to get in the NCAA tournament. Well, that PowerPoint that they did this weekend, that's going to go a long way for their PowerPoints, and Tennessee could be off and running now.
Ben, Texas A&M started the season ranked in the top 5. They started off they struggled a little bit. They had some injuries to begin the season. Seems like they're kind of catching stride. They're now 9-9 in conference. They take 2 out of 3 from Kentucky, who you just said is number 2 in RPI. I think number 1, I think, in strength of schedule. What have you seen from A&M? What's gotten them back on track? My good friend Nolan Cain's over there doing a really good job of recruiting. So I want to give him some flowers. But what are you seeing over there in College Station for them to be able to turn that around?
Yeah, well, Texas A&M, started off with LSU, then they got Tennessee first couple of weekends. They lose those 2 series, and now they've won 4 series in a row. And they blew through Ole Miss, Auburn, Missouri, and Kentucky. Maybe some teams they probably should beat, right? We'll find out more about them as they got Arkansas and Florida coming. But it's again an older team. Jack Moss, I think, is one of the best hitters in the SEC. I love to watch that kid hit from the left side. Like, he really stays in there on lefties. It's an older team. Of course, they got all the experience going to Omaha last year, too. They got a couple of pitchers back that had a lot of experience, too. So it's a team. You mentioned Nolan Cain. I think Schloss is as good as anybody at coaching and preparing. Nolan Cain's outstanding as well. And so Texas A&M, I think, for me, is a team that's not going anywhere. They're going to be a player in this as well, like a lot of other teams. And you guys know how it goes. I mean, whoever gets hot at the end and gets a little momentum going, like Ole Miss did last year's team, that could go a long way. But I certainly think, now they have had some injuries, and you mentioned that. I don't know if some of those guys may be coming back in the near future, but I really expect A&M to be a team that we're talking about come postseason play.
I think we're looking at a sprint here towards the end of the year. Looking at LSU's schedule, as you mentioned earlier, seems to be a little easier, a little lighter on the back end, where on the other side of it, South Carolina has a very, very, very tough schedule, much like LSU's schedule was to start the season. In your mind, how do you see this race kind of finishing out at the end of the year?
Well, I think that's a great point, and you look at the standings today. Of course, LSU jumped over Arkansas pretty good, and of course, LSU won the series against Arkansas too. That's going to matter too as far as the West standings go. South Carolina 13-4, and of course LSU 12-5. So only one game, separates there. But South Carolina definitely is going to be facing a little bit tougher schedule than LSU. So I think it's a nail biter all the way down to the end. I think Vanderbilt could very well be there too, because their schedule, it gets tougher at the end too. But we'll find out more about Vanderbilt. But I really feel like if LSU averages 2 wins a weekend from here on out, I think they very well could be your SEC champs.
Agreed. And whenever they played South Carolina and that last game got rained out, my biggest concern was that last game is going to end up, because it always ends up that way, that last game that wasn't played is going to end up either mattering, it's going to end up mattering for the last to win the SEC, whether it's the outright or the West or whatever it is. And it seems like that's probably going to come into play.
Yeah, that's the way it always feels. And look, I think we felt like this going in. I think everybody felt like, Vanderbilt was going to be really good. We knew Florida was going to be really good. South Carolina was obviously a surprise, but you knew Arkansas was going to be there. They just keep on winning. I know they were swept this weekend, but Dave Van Horn does a wonderful job, up in Arkansas. And so I felt like that's how it was going to be all year long. And of course, the goal is always to win 2 out of 3 every weekend. You do that, you go 20-10. You expect to be right there in the conversation for SEC champs. I think if LSU does that, I don't think there's a way Arkansas catches them, because LSU does own the tiebreaker against Arkansas. But South Carolina and Vanderbilt, we'll have to see how that all shakes out. And I think Florida had a rough weekend, but they're going to have something to say about this too. But listen, all these teams for me have a little bit of concerns when you go down the list about what's going to happen. Florida's got some concerns in their bullpen too. Caglione walks a lot of guys on Sunday. He makes up for it because he drives in a lot of guys on Sundays too sometimes. But everybody's got a few concerns mixed in. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all folds out. I think the big picture thing, though, is this. Can LSU position themselves? And they certainly have. You want to be a national seed. To me, you want to win the championship. I know that's important. I know that's a big goal for you, right? And you want to win the SEC tournament. I know that's a big goal, too. But truthfully speaking, to me, the most important thing right now is, can you be a top 8 national seed? Because we know when LSU's at home at the box, like a lot of teams at home, when you can host regionals and super regionals, your chance of going to the College World Series goes way up from there. So that's the number one goal for LSU right now, is to be a national seed. And hopefully you win the SEC West, hopefully you win the SEC and the tournament as well.
Speaking on just the landscape of baseball in general, right? We're sitting here in Baton Rouge. You get to see Paul Skeens, but you also get to see the rest of the staff where things are different. You go around the SEC, you go around the country, and obviously as you take it into professional baseball as well. What is your take on the uptick in velo around the entire landscape of baseball everywhere, and how have we gotten here to where it seems like everybody is throwing absolute petro every pitch that they're out there?
It doesn't seem like it, my man. They are. I'm just gonna tell you, I sit in the press box and do major league games, and I'm not lying to y'all. There's some nights I don't see a fastball below 96.
Yeah,
and from anybody,
it's crazy.
and I sit there and go, and I don't want to date myself too bad, but years ago when I was playing, the average big league fastball was 88 miles an hour. Right. And now I look at it and it's 94 and some change for starters, and for relievers it's a tick above that. That's what the average velo is. But I'll say that when you go around the SEC and you look at some of the best arms, it's hard to say that. I guarantee the average fastball in the SEC is 93 right now. Yeah. And people say, well, listen, the guns are different. Yes. I will say this. I do feel like the guns are different from, say, 25 years ago. There was a time when the guns caught our balls crossing home plate and maybe halfway to home plate. Now the gun reads it right out of the hand now. And so you're going to see, but still, that's not making up 4 or 5 miles an hour. That might be making up 2, right. But I don't think it's making up 4 or 5. And so guys are throwing down. Reason for that is, everything's max effort now. I mean, that's, we didn't pitch like that. My idea when I took the mound in college and in pro ball was I wanted to finish the game. And so I would cruise along at 95% max effort. And then when I needed to reach back and there was a guy at third, less than 2 out, here's max effort for 4 or 5 pitches to get out of a big jam, right? Now, kids are being taught in college, they're being taught in pro ball, hey, give me everything you've got while you're in the game, and we're going to take you out. Because the average American League starter last year pitched 4 2/3 innings. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, we were getting warmed up at 4 2/3, right? And so, but it's, hey, give me what you got, and here comes these great bullpen arms. That's what the game is about now. And so I get it, but we're also seeing an alarming amount of arm injuries in the college game, in the high school game, and even in pro ball. And while I can't tell you for sure what it is, I think some of it, or a lot of it, could be the velos we're creating at a young age for some of these kids. Your tendons and ligaments can't. I mean, guys, and you'll see when you start going around with your kids, you probably already do it playing travel ball, but when I went around with my son and we got to be 14, 15, and 16 years old, we go to all these biggest tournaments around, like I was amazed that a 14-year-old kid could throw 91, and then I would see 15-year-old kids throwing 93. And I saw a 16-year-old kid hit 97 on the radar gun, and I go, there's no way that these arms can stand up to this type of velo, and I think that's what's happening too. So the good news is, if you see 10 guys go down, 9 are elbows now, which is a good thing because guys are coming back from Tommy John. Not many guys come back from the shoulder deal. So that's the good news for guys getting hurt. But I think it's a lot of reasons. But I think velo is certainly up, and that's where we are right now. It has become stuff over command of the ball. Can you get your stuff over the white part of the plate? Like I see catches at the big league level, and y'all see too. Catchers are setting up right in the middle of the zone and just say, hey, I know you can't hit this glove right here, but give me your best stuff. I may spin it up here or spin it over here. Nasty breaking stuff, but it's become about, can I outstuff the hitter now? And that's what they're doing at the big league level and in colleges. Here's my A game. See if you can hit it.
Yeah, and look, the fastballs aren't straight. They're moving this much, and it's a whole different ball game, and it's something that. Look, I didn't play that long ago, but it's different than when it was 3 years ago. It's pretty outrageous.
No, it is. It's a tough time right now for hitters. It really is. And look, we're doing what we can for the hitters, right? We got no shifts anymore.
No doubt.
We're going through the TSA check line now with the sticky stuff. Like, we're shaking them down. We're doing everything we can do right now. We got bigger bases, so we steal a few more bases. And so they're trying to, get the hitters back in this thing a little bit more. And they're showing up this year. The data that I got the other day is we're seeing a few more runs per game, and batting averages are up a little bit, more stolen bases, more action in the game. So it's working.
Well, I want to ask you that because, look, I appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you for much longer, but you brought up the sticky stuff, and I want to ask you this because Max Scherzer's obviously been in the news. He's been, he got ejected, he got suspended, he's appealing a suspension, and was it David Cohn was the one? He was showing how the rosin and the sweat and the alcohol works, right?
Yeah.
Which I've been around baseball, and that's what I see. Obviously, you've been a pitcher. That's been there forever. Right? What's your take on all that whole situation? Because it seems like Max did everything he was supposed to do, and he still got penalized for it.
Exactly, and I think that's what he used what is legal in the game, what they gave him legally to use in the game, which is a rosin bag and sweat that everybody has, and he created very, very tacky. We saw David Cohn's demonstration the other day. That's as tacky as it gets. He was holding the ball straight up at the bottom of his fingers. It don't get no more tacky than that. And that's with legal substances. So, I don't know what to say about Major League Baseball. What do they want somebody to do? If you give me something that's legal, then I'm going to use it to the best of my ability and create an advantage for myself if I can do that. And that's what he did. So I don't see anything illegal about it for them to say, well, it's too sticky. Well, hell, what do you want him to do? Damn, that's what you gave it to him for, right? So I don't understand that, not even for a second. So I hope he wins his appeal because that's just what we – and look, I'm not going to lie. I used pine tar. We had black sleeves with the Orioles. When I'd go pitch in Detroit or Milwaukee or Baltimore in April and it's 32 degrees outside, you can't feel the ball. I had a little bit of pine tar on my sleeves, and I would be able to feel. Now, we didn't know anything about spin rates then. It was it allowed me to throw the ball where I wanted to throw the ball because I could actually feel the ball again. And hitters actually appreciated that.
Absolutely.
No. The overlying vast majority of pitchers are going to use something.
Yes.
And I think that's something that's a very common misconception that people outside of the game don't understand. 95% of pitchers are using something.
I'd rather, as a hitter with everybody, with the uptick in velo and everybody throwing hard, I want you to use something that allows you to control the ball because I don't want to get hit in the head. Now, once you start doing something,
especially with the velos, you're right. Especially with the velos we're creating now, you guys don't want to be in the box. Somebody throwing 98 and it's coming up around your dome.
Right. Yep. The velo and the pitch up in the zone.
Right. And so, look, I saw Ramon Urias with the Orioles that they got hit 97 right in the ear hole, and it was so scary. Yeah. Thank gosh he's fine. I went for concussion protocol for a couple of days, but he's fine. But it's scary, dude. I'm telling you, these guys are throwing up more than they ever have, and they're throwing up and in, and they're letting the ball go. it's scary in a lot of ways right now. So I get all that, and so I don't know what Major League Baseball, I think they feel like, and we did it because we could just control the ball. Now, going back to the rosin, once it started to warm up, I never used anything because I had rosin and I had sweat back in, and it created enough feel for me to have in the ball where I knew where the ball was going. So I didn't need anything then, and so it is what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I hope, like you said, I hope he wins his appeal. Ben, I appreciate you, as always, coming on the show. We would love to have you on whenever we can get you on next. I know you got the Orioles game. Please stay warm. It's April 24th, and it's still sub-freezing temperatures. I feel bad for you.
Bust out the ponchar.
I do not miss going play up in Detroit at this time of the year. It is miserable, but enjoy it.
I'm going up to your old stomping grounds on Wednesday. I'm going up in to meet the club, and we're going to play the Tigers for 4 up in Detroit. It's going to be a little nippy, but it is what it is. So we're going to be all right.
Hopefully they got more. Hopefully they get some more fans they had the other day.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Ben, I appreciate it. Stay warm, and we'll have you on again soon.
All right, guys. Take care.